Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Elizabeth and I have my husband Mark here with me, and we are going to sit and tell you our birth story. This is something that I wanted to sit down and talk about for a while now because our baby is 4 months old. We are first-time parents to our baby boy Landon, and we did share our whole birth vlog. So I'll link that if you're interested in seeing that. We filmed like the whole day of me being in labor, giving birth, all of it, but I still thought it'd be fun to sit down and just kind of talk about like the timeline of how it all went down, and also to get his perspective.
Also, you can probably hear little Mr. Landon over there playing with his toy. He's 3 months, no, almost 4 months now.
4 months, yeah.
Crazy. Oh my gosh. So you'll probably hear the bell and some cooing and commentary from Landon over there.
I wish we could get his perspective on the day, but can you imagine?
Oh wow, that would be kind of scary.
Maybe we don't want to know.
Probably not.
I also just wanted to say thank you so much for the love and all the supportive comments on our birth vlog. People love you. People think you should be a doula.
Could you imagine? Like you hire a doula and like this shaved head 6-foot guy just like shows up and like, I'm your doula. I'm here to help you give birth to your baby.
I don't know. It could be like a niche thing.
It could be a niche thing. I feel like some people would hire the dude doula.
The dude doula. Yeah. I like it.
Doula dude.
Landon agrees.
And he's going crazy with that bell over there.
Okay, so to begin, 39 weeks pregnant, this man decides to take me camping.
Yeah, so in my defense, I thought we had plenty of time left. I did not think that the baby was going to come the day we got home from the day after we got home from the camping trip, basically.
Yeah. I mean, they say that like first time moms usually go to at least 41 weeks, like maybe 42 weeks even, before your body goes into labor. So I was prepared to go long. He was prepared to go long.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that we went on this camping trip because it was kind of our last little hurrah with our little camper.
It's only really got 2 seats. It's a little Ford Ranger. We'll get something bigger one of these days, maybe when Landon's a little older.
Yeah. So we had tons of fun. We went off and had pizza. We got good food. We went off-roading a little bit, but not on any crazy roads at all. Like, I was definitely very conscious of not going on anything too bumpy. But the truck, even just on normal roads, it feels bumpy to me. It's just not a very smooth ride. So on any kind of dirt road, it was a little bumpy, but nothing too crazy and nothing that I didn't feel comfortable with. But the entire time I was definitely thinking, am I gonna go into labor? Is this gonna put me into labor? I was just picturing his head just like bouncing up and down, which I think is exactly what was happening.
Yeah.
So yeah, we went out camping on a Sunday. We got home Monday evening. We just been kind of up in the mountains, like just hanging out. We get home and I just felt like I need to go to bed. And I definitely had it in the back of my mind that if I go into labor, I did not sleep well last night while we were camping. I wasn't super comfortable, and I want to make sure that I have enough rest under my belt. So normally we always go to bed at the same time, and I would just wait for him. If he's doing something, I'll wait for him because I'm a little bit more of an early bird than he is.
So I was playing video games with my brothers, and so like they live out of state, so we're all kind of far away from each other. So like when we have an opportunity to game together, it's a fun way to connect, and sometimes they'll stay up late, and I hadn't gotten to hang out with them like that for a long time, so I decided to stay up late, and I think I stayed up until like midnight at least. And normally you would like stay downstairs and hang out with me and maybe kind of half sleep on the couch and just be cozy, but like this night she was like, I need to go to bed, I'm gonna go to bed. And it was like, oh okay, well I'm gonna finish playing with my brothers and I'll come up when we're done. But you were very like set, like you were going to go to bed.
I think I probably went to bed around 9:30 or so, which was great. And at 1:30 in the morning my water broke. It was the craziest, most shocking sensation of my entire life. It felt like, and I know it wasn't, but it felt like at least 5 gallons of water just dumped out of me.
And it kept going and going.
So I was shocked. I was in such a deep sleep. It just felt like somebody turned on this hose of hot water in me, and I kind of made this funny like sound.
It woke me up.
Well, no, it didn't, because then I was like, babe.
I remember the sound.
You must have heard it in your sleep.
I was kind of just like, is she having another weird dream? Because there's another story there. We won't go into details on that.
I soaked through everything. The bed was soaked, like everything was soaked. And I woke him up and I was like, babe, my water just broke.
And then I like kind of like had a moment of just like, no, like this can't be happening. Like we have 3 more weeks. Like I had all these like projects and things I was going to get done with the time remaining while we waited for the baby. I didn't know that like,
he's like, haha, Dad, I gotcha.
I didn't know that, like the water breaking doesn't mean like the baby's about to come out. But like, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of like Hollywood perception of birth that exists in our society. And I'm sure it can be. It's not to say it's not. But it's like this dramatic thing. Like we got to rush her to the hospital because her water just broke. I didn't know. Is the baby about to come out? Her water just broke. And that means something in my perception. Like that means the baby is here, basically. I frantically like try to find the papers our midwife gave us to read before any of this happened. She was like, you want to make sure you read all of these before she goes into labor. And, you know, I'm thinking we got 3 more weeks to read these. Like, we don't need to read them. And I'm like frantically like trying to find them, like thinking this baby is about to come out and this sheet of paper is going to tell me everything I need to do.
So I'm like sitting on the toilet, just like leaking water. And he's standing in the bathroom just like trying to scan through these papers and read them really quick.
And I'm like still half asleep.
I'm not like hearing any of this.
Yeah, but luckily you called Emily, the midwife.
Yeah. So I called our midwife. I was sitting on the toilet. I called her and I was like, my water just broke. And like, what do we do? Do we like set up the pool? Like, what should we do? And she was like, no, definitely don't do that. Go back to bed and try to sleep as much as you can because you want to be rested before you push a baby out.
You're so calm about it. Like, oh, okay, your water broke. Okay, well,
yeah.
That signifies the beginning of labor. Go back to sleep.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, okay.
Okay.
All right.
Go back to sleep.
We made a little video and you were so calm. It's in our vlog if you want to see that video.
It was such a crazy way to begin the whole process of labor because I know that so many moms, it's kind of like the guessing game. Like, am I going into labor? Is this a contraction? Like, you're timing contractions. Some people have contractions that go on for a long time before they even actually go into labor. So he has a lot to say. So to start off labor in such a dramatic way was so crazy because it's like, okay, this is happening. There's no guessing, like one way or another, this baby is coming out very soon. I felt definitely very scared as it happened and like scared and nervous going into this whole labor process, not knowing exactly like how it's going to play out. It's definitely very nerve-wracking, especially when you haven't done it before. He's so happy. Look at him crossing his legs.
He's just chilling in the swing, having a good time.
Maybe he'll make an appearance in a little bit here. We finally went back to bed. I think I soaked through like several pairs of shorts. And like I was wearing pads, I had towels under me and everything, but I still like I was leaking so much. It was like impossible to stay dry. And finally, after maybe like an hour or so later, it kind of slowed down and I was able to like actually dry up and be more comfortable. I think I probably fell asleep around 5 a.m. So that was on Tuesday. So we went camping Sunday night and it was Tuesday early morning when my water broke.
It's so crazy to think about in retrospect.
I know.
Like we were literally driving down from an elevation over 10,000 feet.
Yeah.
And we were driving to your labor, basically.
Yeah.
And neither of us knew it.
So we did actually get some sleep. I didn't think I would be able to sleep, but I was like very focused on, okay, I have to get some more rest because I'm tired and I want to make sure I have enough energy. Yeah, I think I probably slept from like 5 to like 8:30 or so. And during that time, I did have a few like really minor contractions, and to me, they felt just exactly like period cramps. I just had a handful during that time, and then when I woke up, I feel like contractions actually kind of picked up. You have really no way of knowing what a contraction is gonna feel like until you're experiencing it, but to me, it felt exactly like period cramps. And from the very beginning, like even from those early contractions, I found that I really could not like stay still or stay laying through them. So I had to be like standing up, I had to be leaning over something and just kind of like swaying my hips, and that really helped. I was honestly a little bit freaked out when those early contractions actually felt painful to me, and I was like, I know that I still have a long way to go and these already hurt. Like, how am I going to be able to do this. And from the very get-go, I felt like my contractions were actually pretty close together. They were sometimes like 2 or 3 minutes apart, even from the very beginning of labor that morning, but they were pretty short. They would only last like maybe 20 seconds. But then I decided I think I need to go to the chiropractor and get an adjustment, because just from being in the car, from camping, I felt like my body was just kind of off. And I thought it might be a good idea to get realigned before I have to push a baby out. So yeah. I ran that by my midwife, and she said that's a great idea. So I went to my chiropractor while I was in labor. I'm leaking water. I'm like so scared that I'm gonna get water everywhere, but I got adjusted, and I'm really glad that I did. While we were out, I felt like my contractions actually stopped, which was really interesting to me.
They gave her a quick break so she could run her errands.
Yeah, it was kind of nice.
This is all you get.
And then once we got home, they picked up again. My midwife was really encouraging me to try to take a nap, so I did that. I was actually able to sleep a little bit, but during that time I was definitely having contractions, and I wasn't able to lay through them. Each time I had a contraction, like kind of half asleep, I would get up on my hands and knees and just kind of like move my hips on the bed, and then I would lay back down and sleep for a few minutes, and then I would, have another contraction and do the same thing. So it wasn't like super restful sleep, but I did get a little bit. And then my midwife told me that she was at another birth that day.
The second birth of the day.
The second birth of the day, which we didn't know at the time. But when I had called her in the middle of the night when my water had broken, she was at another birth. So she must have been so exhausted, but she was amazing, and you never would have known.
Absolute champion. And obviously it's not planned that way. It's just kind of the timing of how it happened.
But it was a record for her, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Probably a record she doesn't want to have again, but it was cool for us to be a record. So she sent over I think she was a student midwife, to come check my vitals, check on the baby's heartbeat, listen to him through a few contractions, and everything was looking really good. And then she left, and we were just left alone to just labor like through the day, through the afternoon and the evening. Brief intermission to grab the little bub. This is Landon James, and he's almost 4 months old.
And he is not camera shy.
We're going to talk about you.
And how we got you. He loves standing. That's his thing that he loves doing lately. We kind of hold him.
I feel like things really started to pick up in intensity around like maybe 5 p.m. I was realizing this is really hard, and I feel like I have a long way to go still. It was scaring me. The mood in the house was a little bit down, I would say.
Well, and what I think is really funny is she's saying this, but like Elizabeth has such a tendency to like not want to be perceived as dramatic, that like sometimes she'll hide things, like because she might be going through something really hard, but I won't know it because she's worried that I might perceive her as, oh, you're just being dramatic or whatever, which I never would. For me, when she's saying some of these things, it's like surprising. It's like, oh my gosh, wow, like I didn't realize you were feeling that way. I mean, you handled it well.
And that's so funny to hear him say that, because I felt like in my perception of myself, like I felt like I was kind of losing it. I think you could sense that I was like starting to feel like doubt myself a little bit.
Oh yeah.
And he put on Justin Bieber. It was like right around 5 o'clock. He put on some Justin Bieber, which is like my hype music of choice. And instantly I felt like my mood just lifted. Like, okay, I got this. Like, I can do this. I'm sitting on the floor eating a popsicle. He's setting up the birth pool. I'm like, okay, this is fine. I can do this.
And I think that's like the biggest thing for me is kind of like, I feel like Elizabeth and I were really in touch with like how each other, well, I right after I say like I didn't notice, but I feel like generally, generally we're pretty perceptive of each other and how the other person's feeling. And so I think that helped me kind of like figure out what you needed. And like, I think realizing that you just needed like physical affection, you needed to be reminded. And I think the biggest thing that's like the reminder that stood out to me from any of like the prep courses or prep books or whatever that we went through was like, a woman's body is made for this. Like, this is what your body is designed to do. And I know that there can be complications and it's not always quite that simple, but generally, like, this is going to happen if you do the breathing exercises or not. The breathing exercises, I'm sure they can help, but it's not like you're going to like just mess this up by like not following some step. Like, this is your body. Like, you don't think about breathing. You don't think about making your heart beat. your body is going to cause these contractions. Your body is going to cause the dilation, or the dilation, and your body is going to push. Like, there are things that you can do to help that along and to make it a little easier. And I'm not saying it's just this totally automatic thing and, you know, whatever. I know that it's hard, but also reminding her that, like, all you've got to do is just keep, you know, breathing and listen to the midwife, you know, and if that's all you do, you're doing great.
And I remember probably around that time, like 5, 6 o'clock, when I was starting to feel like, I don't know. I remember he told me, "You're doing a great job." And I was like, I am? Like, I don't feel like I'm doing a great job. I think I cried a little. I was like, I don't feel like I'm handling this very well. And he was like, "Are you kidding me? You're handling this great." And I feel like that really gave me a boost of confidence. Like, oh, he thinks I'm handling this great. Like,
you were.
Maybe I am. Maybe I am doing pretty well. Yeah, he gets the birth pool set up. And I feel like that time from like 6 to 8:30, I really was just like in my own little world. I don't really remember much. All I remember is that my midwife texted me that she was done at the other birth, which I was so relieved about. And she was going to go home, eat dinner, and then she would come.
I'm going to just walk him around a little bit, and I'll be back.
Yeah, so I remember at about 8:30, my midwife got here, and I was in a really weird spot in the house. And for the life of me, I can't really remember why I was there. I was, like, next to the piano, and I was leaning over this ball. I think that that's probably the first thing that my midwife saw when she walked into the house, was just my butt in the air, in my underwear, because I had no more shorts left. I'd like leaked through everything. And at that point, it was really, really intense.
It was starting to get really hard, and you were definitely showing that it was kind of distressing you a little bit. So I think she got here just in time to help calm you.
Remind me that, like, this is, like, you're doing it.
You're going to get through this, and by the end of the night, you're going to have a baby. Or like, you're not going to go much longer without having this baby.
Yeah, so at that point, I was here on my ball, leaning forward, and I had figured out that the best thing in the world was to have Mark jam his thumbs into my lower back. Once I figured that out, I felt like I could not go through a contraction without having Mark's thumbs or his elbows or something just like hard, really jammed right into my back. And at the end of the night, after everything, I had actual purple bruises on my back, but I didn't even care. It was like the thing that was getting me through.
The only thing that helped and give you relief.
Yeah, it actually gave me a lot of relief.
Brandon was just laying there wondering where his swimming pool went.
Yeah. By this point, I was definitely making a lot of loud sounds, and I do wonder what the neighbors were hearing.
So yeah, one thing that was interesting about the whole process is the whole, you know, concept of like, how dilated am I? And Elizabeth was spending the whole day wondering, like, am I 2 centimeters? Am I 5 centimeters? Am I 6 centimeters? And I think you were kind of thinking you weren't very dilated when she got here at like 8:30.
Yeah.
And she checked you, what, around like 9:30 or so?
I feel like I was just living like outside of time. I really didn't have any concept of what time it was, but I think it was probably about 10.
And I love this so much because, like, I think you were afraid to hear how dilated you were. Like, you didn't want to hear it. And I was trying to encourage you to say, yeah, just get it checked. Don't worry about it. Because I think you were thinking, I'm going to get it checked. It's going to be barely anything. And it's only going to get, like, exponentially worse. Midwife does the check. And she's like, okay, you're 8 centimeters. You're like, her whole demeanor, you're like, what? It's the news you wanted to hear, but you were not expecting it.
Yeah, I was shocked. I definitely was not expecting to hear that.
So you were thinking like maybe 6 centimeters tops. Yeah. So to hear 8 centimeters, it was like you're at the finish line, basically. Yeah,
and to hear that, like, this is really like the height of what you're going to experience. Like, you are doing it, it's happening, and like, this is it. Just the entire day I was thinking it's going to get so much worse. I don't know, I think I just didn't like have enough confidence in myself and that in the fact that like I'm actually doing this and I'm handling this and this baby is gonna come out. So I got a fed and a sleeping little guy on me, but I wanted to wrap this up before we like lose our train of thought. We left off with that I was dilated to an 8.
You were so surprised. I think that's the thing that stood out to me.
I've heard a lot of birth stories where that does happen, where you've been laboring for hours. It's super intense, and then you get checked and you haven't really progressed. And so I was kind of like preparing myself to hear that news, and I was just overjoyed to hear that I was at an 8.
And then we got in the pool.
Yeah, and then we got in the pool, and Mark got in the pool with me, which was awesome. After a while of being in the pool, my body started pushing And it was the craziest sensation. Like, I remember the exact moment where I was like, oh my gosh, my body's pushing. Like, I have to push. There's like this urge to push, and there's no fighting it. Like, you have to do it. So eventually I ended up on my hands and knees, and Mark was still jamming his glorious thumbs into my back. My midwife had told me before going into labor, she had warned me that when you're pushing your baby out, it feels like you're trying to poop out a watermelon.
Mm-hmm.
And I can confirm that that is exactly what it felt like, because all the pressure is right there in your butt. It's like, how is this going to come out of me? But then it does.
And it took a while for your body to kind of expand, and I could feel his head. Like the midwife said, you know, you got to put your finger down here, you can put your hand down here and feel his head.
Mm-hmm.
And I could feel his hair, and I think in the video you can hear me saying like, oh my gosh, he has hair.
Yeah.
And it was just like this crazy feeling of like he's right there.
I think I was probably pushing for maybe like 30, 40 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
I would say. Do you think that's about right?
Yeah.
You just have like no concept of time when you're in labor. Like, I had no idea what time it was. But yeah, eventually he was born. He did come out. I pooped out the watermelon. He came out with a nuchal hand.
So
Yeah, so yeah, if you don't know what that means, it just means his hand came out like at the same time as his neck, I think.
mm-hmm.
So that did contribute to a little bit of tearing, but it wasn't anything too
It seemed like
bad.
it was pretty minor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She said really, like, it's called a tear, but really it was more of a scratch.
Yeah.
And it was 2 scratches, actually. And yeah, he was born, and he picked up his head, and he looked at all of us.
Just I mean, the midwife stuck around. The team, the 3 of them, they stuck around to do all the medical checks and all of the you know, the checks that need to happen. So it's not like they just like leave us like, okay, the baby's out, there you go. They're here for at least another 2 hours or so.
Yeah, probably even 3 hours.
Probably closer to 3, just doing all the checks and making sure Elizabeth's comfortable and has everything she needs, and then trying to get Landon to latch for the first time, sort of helping with that. And I mean, they did such an amazing job. I can't speak highly enough and of how well they did, and just how amazing of an experience it was for both of us. I mean, it was really incredible. I think anybody that has an opportunity to do it like this, I think it's a fantastic thing to do.
I know it's not for everybody, but we've definitely had an amazing experience, and it's something that I would love to do again in the future. You know, obviously you go into it knowing that things happen, and, you know, you could potentially have to transfer to the hospital, but we were very thankful that that didn't happen.
And I guess the reason we say that isn't to compare or say like one is better than the other. I just kind of feel like doing a birth in a hospital, like a typical hospital birth, is sort of the default in America. So people are like surprised, like, you know, when they hear you did a home birth. And I think that's because there's like a lot of fear about it. Like, it sounds like this kind of out there nutty thing to do if you're just super crunchy and you're extra hardcore. I don't think that that's the case at all. I mean, you don't have to be those things to do a home birth.
Yeah.
I think home birth can be for anybody. And I think that's kind of the reason we say it. It isn't to compare or say like one is superior to the other, or to talk down on hospital births, because I think we both think that hospital births are very important, and they're right for a lot of people. It's what a lot of people are more comfortable with. It should be done according to the way the woman wants it done.
Right.
And that's so important. But I think that there is so much confusion about the topic of home birth, and I think it's starting to change. It seems like, you know, more and more people are being, you know, more open about it, and it's not such an alternative thing to do, you know, and I think that's exciting to me, because I think it is really a wonderful thing. It shouldn't be a surprise that people have a home birth.
Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, I think it should be just a normal thing, you know, to assume that someone can give birth at home. I hope that us sharing this experience, you know, can help shed light on another option that can be, you know, a very wonderful experience.
It's almost like getting into a pool. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of thinking about this analogy. I feel like it's almost like getting into a pool very gradually, which maybe that's not the best analogy, because I feel like sometimes getting
Yeah.
into a pool gradually is like almost worse than just jumping right in.
Yeah.
But it's such a shock when you just jump into a cold pool. When you get into a pool gradually, your body kind of like acclimates a little bit. You get in a little bit further, you acclimate a little bit more. And I would say that's kind of how contractions in labor felt
Yeah.
to me. Like, if I had just been plunged into like the peak of labor and like transition and all of that right from the beginning,
That would have been a shock.
that would have been such a shock.
Yeah.
But your body kind of starts to acclimate to it. I feel like you start to get into your flow. You kind of figure out what works for you, positions work for you. You figure out that your husband's thumbs in your back are amazing, and you get through it. Looking back on it, it definitely was an amazing experience to get to do that just here from the comfort and like peace of our home. So yeah, that was pretty much our story, and I just wanted to say that I could not have gotten through it without you. And we also just had the most amazing birth team. Like, my midwife was incredible. I would love to have all my babies with her, and the other 2 midwives that were here, they were so amazing too, and just like so encouraging and just helping me get through it, and like fanning me, putting the cool washcloths on me, give me water, like all the things. They were just really taking care of me. I just felt like so supported and taken care of, and we got our Lander.
Our little guy.
Thank you so much for watching, and like I said, we do have the whole birth vlog. If you want to see it all actually go down, I will link that. And yeah, is there anything else you wanted to say?
No, I think you did an amazing job.
Thank you.
I love this little guy. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. We had a lot of fun making this video. If you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button. Just helps us grow our channel. We have a lot of fun sharing this content with other people, and yeah, we appreciate you watching.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Let's get a little close-up of Landon.
He's out. He is actually asleep with his eyes open right now.